Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to kind of a box office analysis, if you will. We'll quickly jump over to look at this. Let's see here. I gotta get the right thing on there. There we go. Um, is it looking all right? It's a little better that way. So there we go. Yep. First of all, Michael. Michael has exceeded uh, the worldwide biopic total. It's still expected to continue on right now, but let's see. Oppenheimer is, depends on what you look at, but 975.8 uh, million worldwide. Um, the numbers give it 976.779. Uh, Michael stays here 977.86. It still is exceeding it. The box office domestic total for Michael 370.58, 330 for Oppenheimer. All right, and then we have the third biopic. The question was, and it bypassed this. Now I have this on the uh, domestic so that I can see the days, but I can take it off of that and just go back to the total title summary. So we can see 911 million worldwide. Michael's far past that now, 66 million beyond that. The international is the difference. It's 694 million international. Of course, Queen is, as the same as Michael, is more popular overseas than they are in the United States. 216 something domestic. Now this was the interesting thing in looking at this number and Michael's numbers, Oppenheimer's numbers, is that domestically Oppenheimer made 330 million. Bohemian Rhapsody 116 million. Michael has made 370 million and it did that exceeded 216 million here May 9th on the Saturday, the 15th 16th day of release. 16 days. That's 16 days. Come on. Less than 3 weeks. It's a little more than 2 weeks. A couple days more. Quite a bit. Anyway, 330 million is right down here at day 35, 36. Okay, between those 2 days. So it exceeded it on the 36th day. It has the highest grossing domestic total by day 36 of its run. Oppenheimer has a run, it has a split at some point, but it had a run of 245 days that it's showing. That I'm seeing. 245 days. And what I saw, I have to throw a calculator here. Yeah, 35 weeks. It had a 35-week. Now, it came out on home video after 100 and what was the number? 123 days. Had a theatrical window of 123 days before it moved to home video release. Michael is not at 100 days yet. Okay. There's day 68, 69, 70, in the next couple of days. Uh, anyway, much less than 100. It's been on home video availability. It's downloadable and all that, Fandango, Prime, and stuff like that, um, for a couple of weeks. Couple of weeks. I don't know exactly how long, so I'm not trying to push this, but probably around day say 55 or something like that. Okay, and it came out, I'm sure, on a Tuesday. We'll probably say 54 was the day that it came out. I'm assuming now that that's when that it came out. Somebody can look that up and put the exact number to it. But it did. It came out a couple of weeks ago, at least a week ago. So that's, you know, back here. But again, I, I didn't look it up, so I don't want to press that issue. But again, uh, yeah, and then and that was just a couple of weeks ago, and it had beaten out already Bohemian Rhapsody's total worldwide. So it was the highest grossing music biopic. So Oppenheimer overall biopic, um, and then Bohemian Rhapsody that. Now the international numbers are going to tell a story. Michael's stands at right now 607 um, approximately million worldwide. What I understand from the predictions and stuff for that, Japan's going to be a large factor of it. Another 35 million in Japan, easily going to put it over the $1 billion mark. Okay, very easily. It was going to be a billion point one or so. Now, is it going to make another 90 million though, or approximately 90 million, to exceed this 694 million international? Now, this opened up uh, in yeah, I thought it was November. Yeah, November 2nd, 2018. So there may be a difference as far as you want to say inflation rates and stuff like that, and if we want to compare those things. I don't know that I did that in the analysis that's coming up right now. I'm just throwing out some numbers about this. But what I am seeing or hoping and expecting is that mid August, or 6 to 8 weeks from now, Japan puts it over the $1 billion mark for sure, while the other markets are overseas. And as far as I'm concerned, in the United States, now there's some big stuff opening soon. But you look at this. Tuesday's number was $228,000. Okay, and last weekend it made nearly $1 million, and it's like I said, it's at day 68 or thereabouts, so it's about 10 weeks into its run. And looking at it again, Oppenheimer 36, Bohemian Rhapsody. I looked at that. That had a run of some 170, yeah, 175 days. So we're talking another 100 days in the theater. Another 100 days. And you see here, if I'm scrolling up to about day, um, here's a pretty big jump right there. But about that's day 100. So day 102, 100,000, 115,000, 93,000, etc. going down. And then it had a boost, of course, on the weekend again. For whatever reason, I'm not really trying to debate anything there, saying it shouldn't have, or Michael's definitely going to do better. I don't know any of that. Um, but looking at that 100 days, Michael's still 30 something days out from that. A month. Yeah, another month, you know. So, uh, leave it in the theater as long as it's making that kind of money, right? Isn't that the idea? You keep it going. But yeah, so there's a jump right here. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 700,000, right? And here the weekend before that, 3, 6, 8, 9. That's a little over 1 million, I think. In the days 100. So on the weekends it was jumping up. Now I don't know what was playing at the time and playing against new big huge openings. If Michael maintains some theaters, then it may do something as well. It may do somewhat as well. Now, the number of theaters that opened in wide and then it drops down. The number cuts almost in half there from the, well, it's in half there and then therefore quarter approximately. Yeah, somewhere around that number. 60 or 70 days in. And if we go to Michael and look at that, we're in a number of theaters now. We're in 700 and something theaters. So uh, it's making that in 700 theaters. While that other one, well, Bohemian Rhapsody was 110 days down, about the same number. It's a little less right there, but um, wasn't necessarily pushing it up that much. Now there's an average there. We can look at all these different little things. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting concept there of how long the movies ran in the theaters just a few years ago. And certainly that makes a difference in life. Our lives are a little bit different. We are looking for streaming stuff. There's so much stuff on streaming that just nobody has the time for all that. And we are inundated completely with these entertainment things that we got in life. Now, I don't mind looking at it and spending some time on it. I don't want to spend my entire life on it, though. But yes, it's exceeded Oppenheimer. It exceeded that total actually quite well, the global total now, but the domestic total much faster than Oppenheimer's complete run, which, like I just said, is 200 and some 45 days, 35 weeks that it stayed in theaters. And it was open in 2023, right? I think it's 2023. I have to move a couple of things here. Anyway, that's enough about that. And we will continue on with more the subject of what's going on here. And that is some box office kind of numbers, some things about movies that you may be interested in, may not be interested in. Maybe that's all you were interested in at the time. But I went through a lot of like older stuff and modern stuff. I'm doing some comparisons with DC and Marvel, and looking especially at certain DC films that are out, that have been out, and what the future may hold. With that, I just came up with a new kind of a list, and this is interesting whether or not you care about DC versus Marvel or something like that. This is just big movies and stuff like that. I heard many times that I'm very sure that this is the case. It was Gone with the Wind is the highest grossing uh, movie of all time when you adjust for inflation. And I do want to kind of just glance at that. Um, highest grossing adjusted for inflation. When adjusted for inflation, supposedly, okay, Gone with the Wind is the highest grossing movie of all time with an estimated lifetime worldwide gross of roughly 3.4 to 4.6 billion dollars in today's dollars. Box office earnings are adjusted by estimating ticket sales and multiplying by modern ticket prices. That's interesting. All right, so, and what do we have for? We're going to pull this aside so that I can actually see it. Gone with the Wind. Then we got Avatar and Titanic, Star Wars Episode 4: New Hope, Avengers Endgame, Sound of Music, and Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Jaws, Avengers: Infinity War, and Avatar: The Way of Water. It's based on these metrics that are not super clearly defined, but are in. This is Wikipedia, right? At least it's saying that that's a Wikipedia list. And I want to look at this and see. I wonder if they should be altering this based on that. Oh, Zootopia 2 is up there, number 9, according to this. Huh. It's interesting. Are we not adjusting for inflation there? Yeah, Avatar. Yeah, okay. So they're not adjusting for anything inflation. Highest grossing adjusted for inflation goes to this this other list. Let's see here. Why would Jaws is showing at number 10 at 2.7 million. Dr. Zhivago is above that at 2.74 million. That's not showing on this other list that I'm looking at, which is just an AI generated list. It's supposed to get us information from here, though. The Ten Commandments is at number 8. So, yeah, I think the list. Let's see. I'll ask them why they above Jaws. All right, that's my slowdown. I'm not going to do that anymore. It's another thing actually about Jaws in the official charts, but it was bumped from the previous list due to the difference between domestic, North American, and worldwide tracking. If you look strictly at domestic box office, it ranks number 6 of all time. Okay, placing it ahead of Jaws. It's number 7. However, worldwide top 10 table. Uh, it didn't really give an answer. It didn't. Um, yeah, okay. There it is in Guinness World Record and Wikipedia. Now this number doesn't. It won't exactly change that because the number of tickets sold is going to determine, the amount that it would technically be at now. Uh, Generally speaking. So it's always going to be above Jaws. Why wouldn't it be on this list? I'm going to say correct the list, and I'm going to stop messing with them. There we go. This is what they do to you. The AI will suppress information, and we see it here as clearly as day. It now is at number 6, ahead of The Sound of Music and Star Wars: The Force Awakens and Jaws and Avengers: Infinity War, which of course then bumps off Avatar: The Way of Water, so the second Avatar. Um, Suppressing information. I mean, that is literally what that is. It wasn't an overlook or anything. They tried to come up with even a reason. Oh, if you strictly look at domestic, box office. However, it missed the worldwide top 10 for the above two main reasons: global office reporting versus domestic office reporting. No, you know, we don't have accurate data or whatever, but it's still higher. Okay. Uh, Unless they're trying to say that this is the domestic number for the first top 10, domestic number only, worldwide gross is going to be more, and we don't know what the Ten Commandments is, so therefore we left off the Ten Commandments. Well, you should have done the same thing with Gone with the Wind. Do you know what the international numbers are? Does that not maybe change any of that? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it didn't. It did. It doesn't. It's not making sense because that's the numbers they're giving you here are worldwide totals, like Jaws. Let me see. Where? go to my little list here and information and look at Jaws. So I know I got Jaws on here. It's 1977, 78. Jaws initial run 1975. Wow, I've just forgotten. Um, that's a modern budget. Yep. That's what we're not doing. We're looking at the wrong chart. But that's okay. It's slowing me down. Apologize. Um, Jaws initial run, 3.7. Oh, I should pull in here the Ten Commandments numbers and put it on here. That would be interesting. It's okay. Let's see here. Sound of Music, though, showing the 2.1 million. Jaws 3.7. All right. And 4.1. This would basically be where I go to um, explain from now on. So I've got a chart. I've got a couple of different charts. Let me go to this. What I was trying to figure out was different things, production budgets and things like that. And there was some differences as far as like Gone with the Wind, Sound of Music, stuff like that. When you look at the inflation issue, there's an inflation tracking that's Consumer Price Index (CPI). It tracks everyday items, food, rent, things like that. Film production has outpaced this by a couple different factors, and therefore a modern equivalent to the budget. I tried to figure that out, like a calculation to get to a modern equivalent. Because if you look at the number of dollars for, let's just say, for instance, Gone with the Wind, right? You you have I don't know why this is acting so messed up. Stop doing this, guys. It's irritating. Sorry. Try to pull that down. Get it opened up there. Okay. So we'll do good with that. All right. So, Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind. Uh, had a production budget. There was some at the time 3.85 million. This is what I understand from CPI factor is 22.16. So like a dollar that day is worth $22.16 today. So you multiply that, and that gives you 85.3 million as the inflated budget. However, when you're looking at what it would do in Hollywood today, if it was being made today, the human labor and the unions, the background extras, the amount of money that they make, you didn't just get on because um, you said, well, that's some of the same reason they get on now, but they get paid a certain amount of money as an extra, which is far more now because of unions and stuff like that, right? And then also to produce the period accurate stuff from today as opposed to from then may make a difference as well. but the fringe benefits also, SAG-AFTRA, IATSE, the other things that these actors and directors and all these people in Hollywood, the amount of money that they would make, the star power and stuff like that, uh, what it would translate into today. Uh, so that's what I was looking at. That's what I was looking at further. So it's a little different than just multiplying it by the CPI. But I look at that, and then I also am looking at what this calculation is from that day until today. Um, and and I think the concept also was not necessarily relying on CGI of today to create those things, uh, in for like the other kind of scenes and create all the background extras and stuff like that, and save some kind of money on it, supposedly. But in the 90s, there was a dynamic shift with the digital, because in the 90s, as you know, if you look at Jurassic Park, was the huge shift towards CGI and how CGI could take over and make something realistic and believable, given the right hands and the right workers to do that. And of course, George Lucas follows that up with this digital Star Wars, and did amazing things with the technology. And basically, in the 90s, it becomes a 1-to-1 CPI. We've gotten to our modern um, inflation, modern change, that makes the budgets essentially the same. So the CPI equals the modern budget estimate from anything before 1990, and it's here or there. But in looking at these things, um, these movies that I looked at, I noticed an anomaly as I was looking up some different things. I thought that there was a calculation error in the CPI columns for Empire Strikes Back and E.T. Uh, but the answer becomes that inflation was exceptionally high between 77 and 82. In 1977, The Empire Strikes Back came out. Is that, or is that E.T.? That's E.T. And then in 82, The Empire Strikes Back comes out. So it's not proportionately. Most of this is like the CPI is just raising, constantly going up. But at this point, it goes down. And then the overall also was down. Like ETA cost, or ET rather, cost a lot less as a modern movie than The Empire Strikes Back would as a modern movie. So the exact numbers, and also Close Encounters comes in there in 77. ET was 82. Um, and oh goodness, I'm even seeing 1980 was Empire Strikes Back. So I apologize. It just didn't have those numbers jumped out right in front of me. So there's lower and higher inflation factors. So the Close Encounters inflation factor (CPI) is 5.25 um, times the $20 million budget. Gives you $105 million CPI, inflated budget, today's dollars, from 77. But in 1980, $18 million, close to 20 million, it only has a 3.86 inflation factor, giving it a $69.4 million uh, worth, or rather today's dollars, versus that 105. It still kind of sounds weird and out of place. Like, it's the 77 20 million was basically less than the essentially 20 million of Empire Strikes Back. That's what it's. I'm sorry, it was more than the 20 million of Empire Strikes Back 3 years later. And then 2 years later, we got 10 million in ET. So that's 34.6 at a 3.29 inflation factor. And so you think 10.5 million. If you double that to about that 20, then that's 69.2 million again, as opposed to 105. So in 77, 20 million was worth 105 million today. But in 82, 20 million was worth um, about 90. Um, this is not exactly 90. I'm sorry, 69 million. It's a little bit less than that because we're looking at $1 million in there. So I'm just trying to do the math in my head. But anyway, about 60, say 65 million in today's dollars. 82. That's 5 years later. But then most of it after that is kind of consistent and multiplier or going up. We see it going up. It's just an anomaly in there of what was going on at the time. I know that's kind of hard to understand, but when you write it all down in front of you and you try to figure it out from that perspective right there, because you can't just keep adding up over the years. You've got to compare that year to today. That year to today, and so that will fluctuate up and down as far as what a dollar's worth today versus whatever it was worth in these various years. Um, going on, and the other factors for the modern practical budget. This what I have stated, like Star Wars: A New Hope would today be produced for 145 million dollars. Today's budgets, theoretically, and then ET Extraterrestrial 75 million, and they are not quite in the same year, but they're not far away from each other. Um, But Close Encounters is close to that Star Wars New Hopes one. And we throw that in there. We'll leave that to be figured out later. But the point is that it's a sci-fi. It would be CGI. It would be the model builders and all that stuff. Whereas ET is more. You got an area to shoot in, and then the special effects is a little bit of a ship, and the creature effects are just minuscule comparatively, and a lot of Halloween costumes that come out on the Halloween night. So, uh, yeah, it's like it's about half of the Star Wars budget on a modern scale. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, the ET seems like it would make, it would be even more. So this kind of throws off some numbers with some things because they're close to each other as far as their budgets at the time for various reasons. And I'm not trying to dig into all of them, but they're close to each other in budgets at the time. But because Star Wars: A New Hope is 11 million and ET was 10.5, if I remember right. Yeah, 10.5. So the 75 million it being about half of the modern budget. If you then figure out, well, what did it make then, and what would it make today? This means as a budget, the modern version of being able to make that budget versus the amount of money that it made. Now, I'm not anywhere near saying ET made anywhere near the amount of money that that Star Wars: A New Hope made. Episode 4, the first Star Wars movie. I think I have that in a chart down here. I'm not sure. Nope, it's not there. But I do have in this chart the supposed um, earnings that are claimed by the studio, and looks like ET made in today's dollars 1.124 million. No, 1 billion, 1,124,000,000, a 0.85, and then Star Wars: A New Hope is at 1,555,000,000, 0.84, so about 400 million more. Okay, but when you consider that, and that is affected somewhat by that other $70 million that we're adding on to it. So there's that. Now that's they're saying it made that money, not 1.5 billion at the time, but it made whatever money it made. Inflation 1.55, billion, so and so. So that's where I got into the other chart and trying to figure out what is this tickets sold thing, and what is the price of tickets? What is the cost here? And Star Wars: A New Hope, you know, adjusted for inflation. I didn't try to figure that part out because this would be going on and on and on and trying to figure out a new column and stuff like that. Somebody can do research and put this all together at some point. But the number of tickets sold is a key indicator for me. And the number of tickets sold, according to what I'm seeing, 239 million, 9.7 million of the ET, and 275.6 million of New Hope. So you multiply that out to today's ticket sale, right? Then the difference between those two is about $600 million. Okay, I think that's what I figured out here. So what it does is just it's bringing the numbers a little closer together as far as the profits than what you're seeing with the CPI part of it. It's also kind of another question, and I didn't get into this part of it, was whatever that budget was, 145 million for Star Wars. If it sold today's tickets amounts for the tickets to today, again, are running about $16.08 these days. And if you run that through Star Wars at a budget of 145 million, that's the supposed what you could make it for today. And if it sold as many tickets as it did then it's a $4.4 billion movie. And so the profit from 145 million, all right, now that means half of that, 2 point, approximately half, $2.2 billion goes to the studio, and the $2 billion pays off that budget and whatever marketing, probably, and then it means it made $2 billion instead of the CPI amount if we're looking at the exact tickets sold. So this is some just it's kind of just a fun exercise in math and looking at numbers. So part of what I'm looking at the moment in this kind of thing is just the theory, one, that Gone with the Wind is the highest grossing of all time movie. So we'll come to that, and I'll explain my way of looking at it. But it was released. We're going to say the initial concept that I had of it being released was in 1935. 1939. And it ran through 1943. And the first thing I've got here is the budget was 3.85 million. The factor for CPI is 22.16. So the budget in today's dollars is 85.3 million, But if you had to make it today, it would cost $285 million to make. $285 million. And then it grosses off of that something, and we'll come to that in a moment. And um, the calculated profit and loss, this was on a basis of a certain ticket sales prices, but the profit of that in one way of looking at the ticket sales is 4,373,280 thousand, and it's rounded off at that point. Now, looking at the ticket price a different way, it profited there in today's dollars. That's just the CPI inflation. Not looking at the ticket sales to see what that would be. That's another thing to put in there that would be a curiosity. But that is going to be 2,014,570,000, etc. Now, then there's lifetimes and decades of returns, reruns, re-releases. We don't have any numbers, of course, for the budgets of that kind of thing, but it looks like it made that money again, as far as in today's dollars. But we kind of had to do a range, kind of is like take some averages and stuff like that, because it's been re-released a lot of different times, and you'd have to pull that in there and say which year was which inflation factor and so forth and so on to get it all together. We took a little bit, kind of simplified that and let that figure it out. But yeah, another 2,358,490,000 in profits in today's dollars. So it's a very profitable movie. It's like $4 billion into re-releases and so forth. Now, the question is that is that see that's based on the other part of it, the raw budget, and what did it make? If it was put to a modern budget and made of 285 million or thereabouts and made the 4 billion, then if I look forward in time and go to Avatar just for my own comprehension of this, not the Avatar. When did Avatar come out? 2000 something. 2003? Nope, 2009. Sorry, I just keep forgetting. It says here $237 million. Today's budget would be $338 million, and that it made a profit of the 1.75 billion, exceeding 2 billion in the theater. But 237 million is kind of close, and the 338 million kind of exceeds the number there. And then we'd have to find something that was comparable. When we look at that, you have to find something comparable as far as sales, of the original versus what we're saying for CPI and that kind of thing, the inflation rate and today's dollars and all that. Again, doesn't necessarily equate to um, what we're otherwise looking at. So, um, going again to this, that part's not necessarily important, but let me do this for you. We're going to look at and let you see my. Huh. Well, I have to do this in real time. How about it? Production budget multipliers. There we go. So you see my little chart here, and it's still in the edit mode anyway. Come on. It doesn't matter if it's highlighted or not. The Sound of Music, $8.2 million producing in 65, 69. So they run for years. It's not like today. We didn't have the home video like we have today. We definitely didn't have streaming and things like that. So we have a big difference as far as how long these uh, things would run in entertainment. The Hollywood machine is a little different. But anyway, 8.2 million. So a dollar is worth $9.73 now. So 79.8 million. Now that's not quite as much as Gone with the Wind. If we're just looking at those kind of numbers. And today, though, to recreate the Sound of Music as it was, looking at 210 million. Now, I think you could compare that to somebody who has probably remade um, Gone with the Wind, because there's a couple of moderns, but they're not doing it to the same scale for sure. Anyway, and then this number over here is the 714.28 million is the assumed profit and loss in today's dollars. So when you look at that, this is what we're looking at. So we move on to 1966 when the Batman movie came out, the first Batman movie with Adam West. A $1.5 million budget, about $14.2 million today, or $35 million as a modern production thing. I wonder, but I could see it. You know, they're building the cars and stuff like that, and the bat boat and the and and, and 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 the uniforms and all that stuff. And you would hope that, but this is really talking about making the same thing today. So um, that's interesting. You know, that's an idea. But anyway, profitable 1.52 million in today's dollars. They've already spent all that. And there's another Sound of Music release. They did several Sound of Music releases, just like the Gone with the Wind. Uh, it continues on, but yeah, $500 million, a little more than $500 million, almost doubled that up there, the initial run. But moving on, looking at Jaws. Jaws is 9 million, probably one of the biggest productions of the time period, and to that date, as far as actual dollars. Again, Gone with the Wind was that. Sound of Music 8.2. So, as far as actual dollars, though, it multiplies up to 51.3 million today, whereas Sound of Music cost 79.8 million, and Gone with the Wind was 85 million. So keep those numbers in mind. So you say, and we can also keep this number in mind: 285 million is the modern production budget for Gone with the Wind. Does anything exceed that as we go down this list? And they will, of course, but how long does it take to get there? That's just, again, that's the thing that's interesting to me. And here we go with this again: 1.29 1,290,080,000 as the profit off of what would be today. You would produce that with $115 million script, not script, budget. Now, I guess I don't have on here the Meg and stuff like that. So um, that's a good question. That's a good question. How much was the Meg made for? And that may be somewhat comparable as far as those numbers. Moving further, of course, there's plenty of re-releases, makes another millions of dollars in today's dollars. 3D versions of Jaws and so forth. I don't think I put on here Jaws 2 and the sequels and stuff like that, which I probably should have. But anyway, we go into the Star Wars era with Episode 4, has several re-releases and all that, made a good amount of money with a special edition. It says box sets, and really shouldn't say that because we're really looking at theatrical releases. but I may have to try to clean that up if I do this in the future. But $11 million was the budget to that day. A little bit more than up here, but still less than our Gone with the Wind and other model versions. Let's see here. So 57.7 million. $145 million budget in today's dollars or today's production ways for this particular type of movie, but still $1 billion, plus franchise. In fact, this right here almost puts it at 2 billion as that total, and 2 billion is close to the first run for Gone with the Wind. Again, today's dollars. Looks like we might have exceeded, yeah, and we seem to have. This is arguably the highest grossing, or at least the second at this moment, um, movie of its kind, if we include it all. Because again, these are today's dollars, so therefore it's just a modern representation of that money, and we can lay that out in if we want to, into a certain uh, uh, order. What's highest, what's less, and so forth. Close Encounters of the Third Kind from Steven Spielberg, November 1977, original release. Special editions, returns, there's all kinds. But anyway, $20 million budget, 20 million, nearly double of Star Wars, which was the same year but a little bit later that year. Same factors then, so it's not quite double. At $105 million in regular inflation, but 165 million would be today's production budget for that, which is a little strange, but at the same time, this is putting things on film um, into our world instead of a set where some things could be made. Like you create a space battle, and you're not flying ships through, you know, downtown Los Angeles or whatever. It's not that, But I'm saying you don't have that happening. In the Close Encounters movie, you have spaceships flying through, certain areas, and that's a different special effect apparently, and so the cost would be a little different. That's the way I understand that anyway. But it because I think of the higher budget, it's making a little bit less money than its friends. Okay, uh, yeah, but nearly 800 million in today's dollars. Then we have Superman, the movie, came out in December of 1978. $55 million to make. Now, on that 55 million, I don't know. We may have to check on whether or not that 55 million is part of this Superman 2 budget, because they made them both at the same time. And I know that in the commentaries and stuff like that, they talk about how much was made for just that first budget. Now, I don't know. It may be 55 million. They may have, cut that down, say 75 million, but 20 million goes toward the sequel. Maybe, I'm not sure. We'll check it out. Again, I'll be watching that kind of, closely, see what it is. But today's dollars, 258 million, uh, $258.4 million. Today's budget for the Superman film would have been $310 million, it says. Which means that, and with Man of Steel, Zack Snyder, that budget was $225 million. The budget for Superman 2025 is debated. But I would go with the higher number that's out there. That is $363.8 million, which means that was more than the Superman movie. If we are trying to adjust that for today's dollars of production for Superman the movie. Anyway, still, based on the numbers that they have and that they've given, uh, it's a $500 million um, movie there. Now, that's been re-released as well. I didn't really see any figures and understandings for that though. But it's neither here nor there. And then Empire Strikes Back, 1980, $18 million, which is nearly twice, not quite twice, what the first movie's budget was. And I think it makes, based on that number, though, it makes still less than the original Star Wars. So this is where I would go to the box office and say, well, what did it make in the box office? What is that number? Calculated out and so forth, uh, to kind of figure out where this number is coming from. This number, the last number on the chart, is kind of out of place. It's the this one that I'm sort of pointing to it. Anyway, that number in here doesn't really necessarily fit all these other numbers, or doesn't give you the whole picture, since there's nothing about the box office, in this chart except this final number. So it's a little bit out of place, but we can live with it. Then we got Extraterrestrial in 1985, 10.5 million. Today's dollars 34.6. 75 million to make the movie today. It's a 1.1 billion dollars that it made. And then it had anniversary IMAX and other 3D showings and stuff like that. I don't know that I even made it to that. I feel bad about it, but they'll probably release again. It's 82, so it's coming up on another anniversary of sorts. Let's see, 82 to today is 44 years, right? And so yeah, next year would be a 45th year. 5 more years would be a 50th year anniversary. That might be when I get to see it in the theater. If we still got theaters, we don't know what's going on in this world today. Sometimes, but anyway. But yeah, uh, that's that. Superman 3, a $39 million budget. So not as much. 119 million in today's dollars, which is, yeah, it's still less and less. Uh, but it would take 145 million to make it today. Superman 2 was a $225 million budget. Kind of jumping fast it is, and I don't mind doing that. $3 million profits. Let's just see these. I wonder if I picked enough things that were just profit makers. Now, some of them are on here on purpose to, make comparisons. So I wasn't just looking for profitability, but I included all the Superman movies and the corollaries like this here. Before we go to that though, episode number 6 of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, 32.5 million, 90, almost 100 million in today's dollars, 155 million to recreate it in today's environment, $500 million return, and a little bit more in the special editions. Supergirl. Now, of course, these things on TV and merchandising and stuff like that are billions of dollars more. Okay, it's not like Disney actually lost money when it paid out. I think it was four something $billion to George Lucas for Star Wars when they bought it. So I always thought it was worth more, and of course they made a lot of money. We kind of look at it as we get down here. Um, when they made these the three movies and a few others have been pretty high blockbusters. But anyway, let's go on. Supergirl, 1984, with Helen Slater. I contend it's a decent movie, especially the director's cut is good. The director was trying to do something, storytellers were trying to tell a story a certain way that was it confused me for most of my life. I just accepted, what was going on, but um, they when you listen to their explanation, you're like, okay, I sort of see what you're trying to say and what you're trying to do. It's not really a good idea, to tell you the truth, but when you get past that and you're just doing the superhero movie, she's a superhero. She embodies Supergirl as far as um, um, most of the look, but the behavior. She's Helen Slater's a good actress. She does well in the movie. Okay, so it's a good movie overall, and there are flaws, no doubt. But I think a lot of people also are forgetting the idea that there's magic in the universe, and that was somewhat what people didn't care for. But the villain in it is a sorceress, basically. She is using magical powers. And Supergirl, Superman, and the Super Family is susceptible to magic. Okay, and that goes over a lot of people's heads. So they're like, well, I don't know why this person's able to do anything like this. So you got to throw yourself into the universe and exist there. But anyway, it cost about 120 million to make today, which is not much more than the number that is from inflation. But in today's dollars, it lost $82.16 million. Now, I probably should have put down there beside it like what's the actual number that they had, and because we can say that's multiplied by this. But you could go and backtrack that, and should be able to divide that number by this 2.95 in this case, and come up with a an appropriate amount of loss here, or what it was in the day, I should say. Um, 82. Wow. Divided by 2.95, right? It equates to 27 million, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is 35 million. It made in the box office 14, which means 7 million, which is about that. Yep. It's $27 million loss. So then we have Quest for Peace from Superman 4, Christopher Reeves, uh, kind of passion project. $17 million, lowest of all of them. 48 or 46 million rather. We could remake what they did there with for 55 million, and for about 150 million, you could probably make it pretty good, pretty good. But a loss of 5.04 million, or 5,440,000. Now you divide that again by the 2.71, and you come up with whatever it is, which looks like yeah, about 2.71, 50. I'll say like hundreds of thousands. That's not too bad, I don't think, as far as um, a standard is concerned. Not too bad. Let's lower that so I can see. 5.0. No. 50400. Just using a calculator. Divided by the 2.71. Should be what we're doing here. divided by 2.71. It's double clicking on me. Oh, lost. Okay, it's lost about 2 million, 1.859 or 1.9 million. Um, so yeah, that's really what I should have been saying. It looked like it. It did look like it. But anyway, going on from there, from 87, we get to 89 with Batman. So not too long after Superman 4. I don't think of it as that. I think of Batman coming out like closer to today, and even though I watched, um, well, I can't say I do not remember seeing like super. I may have remembered somewhat. I remember somewhat seeing like Superman 3 in theaters. I really do. I just vaguely remember a couple little things being able to see it in theater. But uh, and I don't think we watched Supergirl in theaters. But Superman 4, yeah, I do remember that in theaters. Remember it going to it at the mall that existed not too far from where I am now. But it's no longer as it was. But anyway, Batman 1989. 35 million was the budget, 85.6 million in today's dollar, 110 million dollars to recreate that if we were to do that. That's kind of interesting. And then it's profitable by 421 plus million dollars. And then Batman Returns comes out 3 years later, a much higher budget, 80 million. So 170 million, 170, almost 175 million for inflation, 195 million to recreate it today. There was quite a bit in there that was like just quite a bit that wasn't necessary, and that somehow was still there. Made less money, is too dark for a lot of people and stuff like that. It didn't attract as easily. Even though the first one's kind of dark, it wasn't dark and scary. I think that makes a little bit of sense because the penguin was very scary. Very scary for the little ones for sure. Anyway, Jurassic Park comes out just shortly after this. This is amazing to me. Just thinking about the years and how close they are. Um, I don't remember seeing Batman Returns in theater. I, I'm trying to remember a little bit, and as I'm trying to remember, it's like growing in my brain. That yeah, there was some stuff going on there. But back to this here, Jurassic Park in 1993, supposed to come and take over the box office. It said 65 million years in the making. Um, not that many years anyway, but it's $63 million in the making actually. 133.6 million um, in today's from CPI, but this is a one for one now. We're in the digital age. What it would take to make it today is about what it took to make it then, as far as adjusting it for CPI, with just regular inflation. So there we are for that now. Still $833.86 million in profits, and gains another little bit here. So probably puts it over 900 million. Uh, I sure thought it was $1 billion, thing. Since then, yes, lots and lots of money for sequels and so forth. The Lion King came out, cost 45 million to make. Probably the most expensive animated movie at the time, or up to that time. I know that they talk about anyway. Uh, I don't have that information, so I'm not going to get into it. But 45 million, 93.1 million today's dollars, made almost 700 million. So again, kind of close. Um, and then since then, some re-releases and stuff like that, IMAX and so forth. Uh, Next on Batman Forever, 95, $100 million to make. Whew. Again, expensive where they shouldn't be. $190 million what it would cost today, or adjusted for inflation. Still profited 129.73 million. You got Batman and Robin, cost 125 million to make. Uh, adjusted for inflation at 238.7 million. Lost therefore 11.25 million. And shut down that world. Now, if you add up these numbers of where they've made money and then you take away this little amount here, it's not necessarily as big of a deal as people might make it out to be otherwise. You can have fun with the Batman and Robin movie. It has its pleasures, but it is bad, per se. But the Batman movie in 1966 is campy and silly and goofy, but you know, it's it's still beloved. Still made money at the time, and still people love it today. Then we have Titanic. Well, the Lost World came out in '97. $73 million, 139.4 million in today's dollars, or about $140 million to remake the Lost World. That's interesting. That tells you that if you could make what they did today for this amount of money, make what they did in that day, today, for that amount of money, then you look at today's, which don't necessarily look any better. I promise you that. Not necessarily. Some places maybe, but not necessarily. Um, and we'll look at three here in a moment too. But yeah. Anyway, money making compared to today's Lost World series. I don't know. Not Lost World, Jurassic World series. I don't know if I included those on here. We'll have to see. Then Titanic, the juggernaut, the big thing. $200 million, or in today's dollars, 381.9, almost 382 million, almost 400 million, but still clears because of so much money coming in. This 1.378 million in today's dollars, 1,378,260,000 and then the redos, remasters, and 3Ds, anniversaries, another almost $500 million overall. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, has had several re releases too. But in '99, $115 million to make, 211 is the estimated for doing that today. I'm still baffled by that. I think that could technically be done for a different amount, you know, um, somewhere around a third of 150 million. So we're talking about $50 million. Uh, really, I mean, people that know how to do the special effects right. For instance, the creator was a very low budget comparatively, and had a lot of effects heavy stuff. Tron had similar ships and beams and stuff like that as the creator, but Tron Ares cost way more to make. So that should be telling to you. It's like, look at these two movies, see the similarities between them, see whether or not they could be done for a similar price, and why weren't they done for a similar price? What is the actual cause of these higher costs? Jurassic World 3, we're looking at some basically diminishing returns. It's costing more to make the movie. For what reason, I don't know. Jurassic Park 3 rather, did not really. It didn't do anything as far as pushing forward the effects and stuff like that. Then moving on though, Attack of the Clones, 115 million, almost 200 million. Still brings in his 358 million. Now that is around half of what episode one brought in, but everybody was excited for episode one. The second one, a lot of people were not liking it. But they had something ready for you in episode 3. But here we got Batman Begins before that in June with Christian Bale by Christopher Nolan. 150 million. Today's dollars, 235.3 million. It made about 57.8 million in today's dollars. Use that multiplier 1.5 to figure out what that would be. As I understand, it be about a quarter less than this. So, 12 million less or so, I think, is what number you would come up with. Maybe 13 million. And yet, 5782 divided by what I said, 1.57, right? Um, some number's not right there. It's 5782 divided by 1.57. Okay, 21 instead of the 11 that I was thinking for some reason. Let me see if I can recalculate my brain. Yeah, I'm not too far off on that. Still 21 million. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of how to get there mathematically. Very quick in my head. But yeah, I was off a little bit. So about 36 million is the without inflation. Is how I understand it anyway. Right now, uh, episode 3 with the Revenge of the Sith, 113 million, 177 million in today's, and made 500, almost 500 million in today's dollars. So an improvement over the this here uh, episode 2, but still significantly less than the first one. There's to me there's problems with the first 3 episodes, and it should be reworked, refigured. I've told other people about it. I might make a video about it someday. Maybe I did make a video about it, and I just don't remember it being there somewhere. But I may do that. It's just a revamp of the whole thing. But anyway, The Dark Knight with in 2008 for 185 million. So an increase from the 150 million. Now, some of this comes in like you pay your actors more, something like that. You pay the director more. He's worth more. He's made you 100, or $30 million or something like that. Is he worth another $5 million or something? Now, not that it just adds up. Is Christian Bale worth more than whatever he was paid the first time? Yeah, he's worth more than what he was paid the first time. Was Heath Ledger worth more than what he was paid for the film? Sure, absolutely no doubt about that. But anyway, 263, almost 265 million to make it today, and profited about a half a billion. It's pretty interesting. Then we got Avatar comes, another juggernaut, $237 million. I guess he wanted to spend a whole lot of his $1 billion movie. But anyway, 338.5 million to make it today. And that should be telling you if we've got down here somewhere where we get Avatar 2, um, that it's more than that 300 and something. Avatar 2 is right there. 388 million, 350 million to come. Yeah. So he's kind of keeping it in line, if you will. And I don't have the Avatar 3. Huh. I forgot my avatar. Oh well. I can't do anything about it now. Moving back to it though. 2009, Avatar, making nearly $2 billion in profits in today's dollars. For some reason, the King's Speech is on here. Oh, it's the biopics. It's like probably the number 5 biopic, one of the numbers of biopics that I have on here. The stars on here indicate any non DC property. For those of you that might be wondering. But anyway, 15 million to make it, 20 million, 21.1 million today, and it made 280 plus $1 million. And like I said, I tried to get the top 5 biopics on here, so that may be number 5 right there. I'm kind of assuming it is. Dark Knight Rises in 2012, $250 million, so it's a big increase. And then or 333 million to make it today, and a little bit less money than The Dark Knight made, but enough. Finished out the trilogy. Again, merchandising, toys, statues, stuff like that, remote control Batmobiles and things like that are all going to be a part of making money outside of this. Um, and also your streaming and your DVD and Blu-ray sales and so forth. Then we have Man of Steel. Now, Man of Steel is 2013, a $225 million cost. Today's inflation is 300 million, 295.9 million, and that what is apparently, according to this, it would cost to make today. And the now the profits of that, again, multiply 1.31, was 141 million in today's dollars. Now let me just do it real quick so I don't lose anybody, because I'm going to come back to this this movie when I can anyway. 140, 190,000. All right, divided by 1.31 is $110 million is the estimated amount for that. That I think is debated and may have a different figure, and all these things may be able to be calculated differently, and a lot of them are just fun calculations. There's profit though in that. You see that? It's 100 and something $1 million in profit that Man of Steel made based on the numbers, based on the initial numbers. Now I know I've seen some people come out and try to recalculate those numbers for Man of Steel and make them diminish hugely and claim that it's a loss to the studio. But not only did they do that, they also had actual record breaking um, partnerships and promotional material and stuff like that, and merchandising and toys. It set off the whole thing of Masterverse toys. I think it was called Masterverse. The DC Universe toys, master, um, articulate, very well done toys. Not the cheaper versions, and there were cheaper versions, but it's hard to find them. But it and the other movies to follow really set into that lane, which has become McFarlane Toys. They're the ones producing this now, but I have that I may show someday a whole bunch of the toys from the movie and I forget who produced it. It might be Mattel. Um, just very well done, very uh, detailed, very cool looking toys, worth much more money uh, than is probably claimed for it now. If you go look them up on eBay and stuff like that, but you can find the Man of Steel uh, toys of different toys, figures, all that. Um, uh, and there's a variety of different variations to the different ones. Like Zod is tied up in one, he's free in another one, and you had to have them both to be able to play them both ways. There, right? He's either when he's tied up or when he's loose. You gotta have it all. But anyway, um, very profitable in marketing as well. They're still making shirts. There's and I'm talking about shirts that are very popular and that sell well. Okay, uh, moving on though, the Wolf of Wall Street financial biopic, and sure enough, it's okay. So this is probably number 5. That was probably number 4, but it said it cost 100 million, about 131 million today. Made about 131 million or so. That's less than the King's Speech. So I would say it looks like that. But then again, that's not the box office numbers. That's just saying the profitability of it. It may be that the box office numbers are actually higher for The Wolf of Wall Street than the King's Speech because this is just so much lower of a budget to create a high that yeah, it's almost that 100 million uh, is a big difference there. So I'm not sure, but we'll see. I think I've got it connected in another place. Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014. I don't want to take too long to get through all of this stuff, but that's profitable. 170 million to make, 220 million today, 330 million, 37 million, almost 338 million. Now that was coming off of uh, right after, and I don't have all of the Marvel stuff coming out, but when they came out, but that's coming off of one of the real big Marvel movies, probably Iron Man 3 or something like that, and it's riding the uh, coattails of the other Marvel movies, basically. You got American Sniper, uh, war biopic. Uh, um, uh, I've lost his name right now. Plays Rocket Raccoon. Um, uh, yeah, I'm not sure. I apologize, but he played Chris Kyle, whatever his name is right now. Just can't. It's just not coming to mind. Did a fantastic job. Good movie, and made a lot of money. Uh, Clint Eastwood directed. 58.8 million, about 76 million to make today. Made 277 million, which is less than the King's Speech as far as that number, but probably is higher up in the actual numbers otherwise. Again, we're figuring this stuff out based on some other information. As far as box office numbers and stuff like that, that's what I'm talking about. Jurassic World comes out, 150 million cost, almost 200 million, and made close to $1 billion. And we get The Force Awakens came out, 245 million dollars to make. That's kind of amazing. 317 million if you were to do it today, but comes back with $1 billion profit there. So it's doing pretty good. Batman v Superman, 250 million, about 319 million today, and made some $239 million. That I will have to look at because that does not look accurate. The the it was 300, approximately 300 million. Um, nope, 200. We'll just say 200 million more than Man of Steel. So if Man of Steel has 144 million, this should be, you know, uh, like I said, another. Well, I guess it would be close to $100 million more. So that's fairly close as far as it's just the straight numbers. Should it have made more money? Yes. Ultimate Edition should have been put out in the theaters, and people would have kept coming back to see it. I know this because everybody that hated on it that I ever saw, that hated on the movie, when they saw the Ultimate Edition, absolutely loved the movie. Watching a guy these days now that supposedly doesn't like Superman, but he's liking these movies: Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition especially, likes that movie. But yeah, I watched several people that disliked the movie, and then he came back and after they watched the director's cut, the correct cut, the extended edition, if you will, the Ultimate Edition, Batman v Superman made so much money. And that briefly showed up in the theater. It was like thrown out there in the theater and then for a couple of weekends or something. But we have no idea what it made because it was mostly thrown out there, like, in certain localities. It's like it's all been re released in special days where just a group of people in the theater, are specially invited to be able to come out and see it and stuff like that. Somewhere in, I want to say San Diego or something, somewhere close by. But anyway, and people have made the trip, and that's cool. Um, I would love to see them release them uh, wide again, and let's go. Let's see what the kind of money they make. Especially Zack Snyder's Justice League. I do believe you release that on IMAX screens, and you will make a lot of money. Lots of money. Anyway, we got Suicide Squad. Forgive me, monitors. That is the title of the movie, not something I'm talking about otherwise. Uh, but you know, um, it's not something that should be, say, taboo and inappropriate to talk about. But that's just the title of the movie. August 2016 uh, was the release. So shortly after, Batman v Superman, 175 million to make, so less than that. 223.7 today. So it made profit wise made more than Batman v Superman, even coming in less than that in the global total. Uh, then we have Rogue One, 200 million to make. Uh, Pretty decent movie. 255.6 million if you would make it today. It did make, in today's dollars again, 419 million. Uh, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now we have 2017, $200 million to make it. So there's a little bit of a bump there. 250 million if you were to make it today, supposedly, and made less profit than the Guardians of the Galaxy before by about 440 million. 289.85 million total there. Then we have Wonder Woman comes out and well, made what should be the guidelines on how to make a good superhero female led movie. If people want to complain, there were other attempts to do things like that. Catwoman. I don't know why that's not on this. But anyway, Catwoman's out there. And no, didn't do well. Elektra's out there. Didn't do well. Okay. And the reason why is because of the way the films were made. And there were others that were attempting to kind of put women forward as a superhero kind of role or something like that. But I may have to shut this down pretty soon as far as these figures. In fact, I may be at a good stopping place right here. But let's see. Yeah, I think we're gonna close out, and we'll come back with this part two and more. But Wonder Woman was fantastic. 100, almost 150 million to make it. Uh, 186 or so today. It made over 300 million in today's dollars. It did very well. Now here's the number that I'm going to have to disagree with. We have the Justice League, or Justice League, as is fondly referred to as, in 2017. 300 million was the idea of the budget. 375 million in today's dollars. Says it made a profit of 38.3 million. And if that's true, that's great. But I've never seen that calculated out, and every time I have seen a calculation out, it it lost money at all the calculations I have been able to find. That I may have to look at again because there's several little factors that have come up that I may have not been thinking about when I looked at them before. But as far as I know, that um, return is is not exactly accurate. Again, but if it is a positive, that means that it was making, the DCEU was making money even through Justice League, and we'll see how much more it goes on from there. But yeah, I gotta split this up and talk about it in a few moments or something because it's getting long, about an hour and almost 40 minutes right now. But this things I do. Sometimes I do these things for fun. It's fun to look at them to see what things are being said sometimes about movies, like and then to look at numbers, uh, especially when the numbers are being talked about, and then you can look at the numbers yourself. And it's amazing how much can be calculated in different ways. So, as I said in a different video, we got the legs for Superman. Is it going to have the same legs this Supergirl movie? Well, it looks like the legs of the Supergirl movie are dropping off a little faster. So we got a recalculation. And if that keeps happening, what amount of money is it going to make? But not talking about Supergirl just yet. I'm just saying that that's what we're talking about in the other video. There's all kinds of different ways to calculate stuff and to look at these things. Now we're getting close here where the budgets are going to get real close to each other because it's only a little bit of inflation. But then we'll talk about in another video probably the difference between inflation uh, per se and ticket prices and what would ticket prices be, and we'll look at some different movies and make some comparisons. Those will be, again, I think it's fun sometimes. If you've stayed with me, I appreciate you. Like the video, let the other people know, tell them they can watch it on 1.75 or so, and I go through it a whole lot quicker than I otherwise did. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.